Hey all, it's Pappy again, and this is going to be a very confused, mixed up installment of White Lives Matter. Um, of course, police brutality has been a huge focus of the greater black and slash people of color non-white community, but I am not one to ignore that police brutality is mostly a poor people issue. What makes this even more relevant at the forefront of my mind is that recently I have seen videos of white men being treated in very unprofessional, brutal fashions. I just watched a video of an off-duty police officer yelling at someone else with a loaded gun in his hand that of course we assume to be loaded, but no one got shot, and that's great. I also watched another video of a woman get handed a ticket for a parking violation while talking to her neighbor. All of the people involved in here are white. And she was in her car, parked. The vehicle was still running. But was ticketed for being parked. And when the person that the ticketed person was talking to confronted the officer pulled the taser and said that he didn't have to answer anyone's questions. He didn't have to answer to anyone. There's also another huge issue of police officers shooting people's pets. And there was an incident where one police officer said under oath that he is trained to shoot all dogs, be they aggressive or non-aggressive. So that means that a dog can just be nowhere near him, but because a dog is there, he has the right to shoot it because that is what he is trained to do. Now, I know being trained to do something and having the right to do something means two different things in normal society, but apparently to police officers, those are the same thing because apparently they operate outside of normal society. I have also seen very recent stories of police officers of color committing crimes and being properly handled in those crimes. Mostly, the stories I've mostly seen being sex crimes. Of course, there are some assault and fatal shootings, but those officers of color were handled properly. And there's just a huge gap in the way people are being handled apparently, because if you get shot by a black cop, you can rest assured that that cop is going to go to fucking prison. And even though they may get out of prison, they can never be a cop in their district or anywhere else again. And that's how it should be. But we see a lot of these white cops get away with things every day, including non-fatal things such as a recent case where two females were pulled over, and the male officer claimed that they had marijuana, and he did an illegal search and found marijuana, and then he called the female officer to do a cavity search on the side of the road. No one got shot. Everyone went home eventually, but they have to file a lawsuit because, of course, it was an illegal search on the car. Cavity searches are close to non-ethical, especially on the side of a highway or any other public place. And to add insult to injury, there is a claim that the officer that did the cavity search did not change gloves between searches, which to me is ultimately disgusting. So, to add even more insult to injury, the female cop that was called to perform the search got fired, whereas the male cop that initiated the illegal search is only on suspension, last I heard. So I guess I'm sort of conflicted now. Like, there's the overarching issue of white supremacy, but whenever I talk about things specifically about the police, these issues come up, where some cops are being treated as they should be treated and are punished for the things that they do, and some cops aren't, where black people are being brutalized and threatened with their lives, and also so are white people. Um, so talking specifically about the police is going to be one of those greater arcing issues, and I really feel like we should treat it as those greater arcing issues, because it's really not black people that are the only ones that fall prey. It's also Native people, other people of color, anybody you can think of that lives in this system where we have this power dynamic where some people think they're above the law. And we also have this capitalist society that fuels these people that think that they're above the law and can do anything to anyone. They will do anything to anyone, obviously. So for this White Lives Matter, I want to put greater emphasis on how, and here I go, I'm going to say it, on how all our lives matter. How poor people's lives matter. How Native American lives matter. And of course, last but not least, how Black lives matter. How all of our lives matter, and how we should all be united against this fucked up capitalist dog eat dog power structure where this one type of person, because they have a badge and a gun and a uniform, can just shoot somebody else's dog, slap handcuffs on minors and just take them away without giving proper explanation to the parents, yell at people, argue with people, and do shit off duty with their guns, be asked questions and not properly answer them, because as sure as I'm employed and I'm paying taxes, I don't want to fund any of this shit, regardless of who it's happening to, regardless of their skin color, their gender, their background, none of it. I don't want to fund these fuckers at all. So this episode of White Lives Matter is definitely more about, I guess this is more police lives matter rather than white lives matter. Because there are all these greater issues that, I mean, of course they heavily affect black people because systematic racism, that's just how that shit works. But when women are being pulled over and given illegal cavity searches on the side of the highway, regardless of what's going on here with this right here, when off-duty police officers feel as though it is appropriate to body slam people and handcuff them and pull out their guns for arguments and shit like that to people, regardless of this stuff going on here, we all have a problem. We all need to be a part of breaking down this power structure. And some of it does start with racism. A lot of it starts with that age-old misogyny where, because these people have this certain set of genitals, they get treated less than these other people. It starts with breaking down a lot of these power dynamics, and we really can't handle things like the police without handling all these other issues that basically piled up to make this a problem. So I just want to encourage everybody to exercise your constitutional rights. You do have the right to remain silent. There's not much they actually can do with you after that, regardless of what they choose to do. But legally, there's not much that they can do. And if you live to tell the tale, you get a lawsuit. And those lawsuits usually do pay out. You find yourself a good lawyer. Even though public defenders get a bad rap, we're supposed to have things in place for this system to be able to work. Now, I've seen all the negative stereotypes of public defenders while I'm on that subject, of how they're overworked, underpaid, and they're pretty much in a position to not be able to do anything right. At the same time, there are still these cases that are handled amongst poor people, because that's what the public defenders are supposed to be for, that do get punished. So if you live to tell the tale, then there's no excuse to not exercise your rights. Now, I know a lot of the focus is on the people that don't live to tell the tale. And those people deserve just as much focus as the people that do. Because these are people that have to continue to live with this traumatizing event. And have to go through these legal battles and such. So what I want is for everyone to get the emphasis that they deserve. People that tell the tale and people that don't live to tell the tale. Everyone is important because this is all how the system works. I hope that was comprehensive. And I want y'all to take care of yourselves and each other. Whistleblow, unionize together. If you live in a community that can pull together to make an alternative to the police, like your own security system, do that. When the police approach you, know your rights. Be educated on your rights as an American, because we're all in this together and there's no way around that. So it's all of our jobs to stop this domestic terrorism.